Maximum and minimum values are different from the previous types of metrics. Instead of providing a figure that takes the whole range, it provides a number that represents the end of a range. In the last section, we worked on calculating the total and averages. Both of these measures take into consideration the whole range. Here, instead of the whole range, we look at the minimum or the maximum value. We only want to grab the element relevant to us. It's quite often just one value. The maximum value is the greatest element in a sample. Similarly, the minimum is the smallest element in a sample. We can use Python's built-in functions for lists to find the maximum and the minimum values from a list. Since we're starting with a list of string elements, we have to convert the data types to float. The max and min only work with number types. We start with creating a function findMax, and we pass in the data sample as well as a column number. In our case, we want to find the maximum of price, which is the third element. And then we'll take the price and append it to a list, and then we'll find the max from that. You could use a list comprehension to make this a more condensed form, but this is a little bit more readable, so I'm just going to use this to show you how it works. Now, so let me print this out so that you can see the output. So we have 7, 11. So let me comment out those lines. Clear. And run it again. The most expensive tie in our data sample is 711. Let's find the minimum. That would be just the 2 characters changed. And also those 2 characters changed. And let's see what the least expensive tie would be, $10. One thing to note here is that we have this list repeated in both functions, so maybe we can try to truncate our 2 functions into one. So let's create something called findMaxMin. I'll take in a data sample as well as the column number, but we're also going to have a value for the minimum or max. I'm going to call it M. I'm going to actually have 2 temporary values inside this function, and then I'm going to repeat that for loop from before. I want to look at every single tie in the data sample and pull out the price for each tie. And then I'm going to check whether the condition that was passed in equals to max, or maybe the condition was equal to min. But we also just want one last one, just in case the input was not max or min. If it's max, we want to say the value equals maximum of the list. if it's the minimum, we want to say that the value to return should be the minimum of that list. Oops, we have a typo. We should add in the R. All right, so we definitely need the third argument. But just to get around this error in the future, in case we forget, we can set the default value to be max. And we can say we want to get the minimum, just for now. We forgot to pass back the return value. There we go, we have $10 tie. Let me clear that. All right, so that's what returns from that function. Now let's move on and see how NumPy calculates the maximum and minimum. NumPy provides functions that make it easy to get your maximum and minimum as well. So what you would do is say NumPy max equals numpy.amax, and we're going to say prices in float. We have price from before, that was the price column from the NumPy array. And then we also said that price in float was a list comprehension where we converted the x for x in price. So if we print out the NumPy max, we'll get 711. And then we can also do the same to get the minimum, which is replace the max with min. And if we were to print that, we'll see that the number that comes back is the minimum value. And there we go. So I'm going to remove that line so that when we import this to other files, it won't be distracting.